the belly of the beast is here, and here is orders on Larunda Relay, giving us a lot of free arcanes that are really, really good. But in case you don't know, the arcanes have a limited supply, so you can only get 2 sets of each arcane, which means that you can only get 2 sets of energize, 2 sets of grace, 2 sets of barrier, etc. This is made in order to not completely ruin the economy of some arcanes and arcane energize to stay on a pretty reasonable price, but these arcanes are pretty much free of grabs because they are very, very cheap to get a set of. Now, this is all really good, but since there is a limited amount of these arcanes, after you grab Energize and Grace and then you sell the extra set, what should you grab from the other arcanes over here? So, first of all, Arcane Avenger, used in a ton of builds because it gives you 45% critical chance that is additive. This means if your weapon has 5% critical chance and you trigger this arcane, that means your weapon now has 50% critical chance. And this can scale multiplicative with things like primary and secondary IQD. This thing can do a lot of things that is really interesting, and it can also be combined with an Ardaza Kavat to give every weapon above 100% crit chance, which is really, really insane. The Arcane Aegis, this has been one of the newest meta arcanes. For the past year, this arcane has been used in a ton of builds because shield tanking has become a lot more potent than any other type of tanking methods. So if you're someone that requires arcanes to shield tank on a lot of warframes, namely Banshee, Excalibur, and a lot of other frames, then this arcane is right up your alley. If you want it, you can use it on pretty much any tanky frame that I can think of that has damage reduction. You want it on your early is perfect. 2000 shield and her Merlina, this arcane will make her very tanky. Nova, this arcane will make Nova very tanky. But you know, prime redirection, things are needed. Regardless, both of these arcanes, after you get them, the other set will sell for another 250 plat, which is very, very good considering these arcanes are only 6 volatile modes compared to Arcane Energize's 30 volatile modes. This would mean that if we had an infinite amount of arcanes to purchase, the Arcane Aegis and Arcane Avenger arcanes would actually be more beneficial to you and better for you to sell than Arcane Energize, because you get more for a less price. If you do the math, you need 5 times the amount of volatile modes to get Arcane Energize compared to Arcane Aegis or Avenger. But Arcane Energize or Arcane Avenger costs 3 times less than Arcane Energize, you know. So Avenger and Aegis would be definitely the better choice if we had an infinite amount of arcanes. Sadly we don't, but they are still an amazing, amazing choice that you should get your hands onto ASAP, and maybe some of them, Arcane Aegis, in my opinion, is a bit more valuable than Arcane Energize, considering on how many ways we have to energy regen in the game right now. After this, the other arcanes that I would recommend on grabbing, since, you know, we have a limited amount, is any of the Fire Rate arcanes. Acceleration, Arcane Acceleration, Arcane Velocity, and Arcane Strike are all extremely, extremely good arcanes if you want more attack speed on your builds and you don't want to waste that one slot. And that will make you save 1 slot, go for more damage, get way more damage on your weapons. It is really, really good. Last but not least, there is Arcane Agility, yeah, right here. Arcane Agility, really, really good for speedrun frames, if you want to use it on a Mirage to speedrun Exterminate missions, if you want to use it on a Nova to speedrun Capture missions, even though, you know, Titania exists, but you want to be a bit different, you can do that, and I will showcase that. And then, there was one more that I forgot. I remember. There is Arcane Trickery. The Arcane Trickery, so normally this arcane is pretty bad. 15% chance to become invisible for 30 seconds. Now 30 seconds is a lot, and this only became useful very recently because of the new arcanes introduced in 1999, and specifically Arcane Crepuscular. The Arcane Crepuscular allows for Arcane Trickery to be used with certain warframes to give them free critical damage onto any of their weapons. So I'm going to show one of the techs that I found that uses this arcane, and it uses very potently. And you could probably imagine with all the subsumes that we have that open enemies to finishers that this could be used in a lot of other frames, but I will show you one example, and the example that made the most sense to me while using this arcane. Everything else more or less is okay. Tempo is okay if you want more fire rates for shotguns. It's not really that useful, but I mean, Bubonico exists, I guess, and Sedo. That's about all I know. Arcane Precision is okay also for the headshot damage. It's pretty okay. Same with Arcane Rage, the headshot damage and give more damage to primary weapons. But the last Arcane that I want to talk about, and I will mention that it's really good, is Arcane Arachne. So Arcane Arachne, normally it's fine. It says it gives 150% damage for 30 seconds. This is weapon damage, 150% weapon damage. The thing is, unlike Arcane Rage and Precision, it doesn't specify any weapon, which means any ability that is coded as weapon damage, for example Nova's first ability or Wisp's third ability, they will benefit from the damage of this Arcane. They will benefit from the damage of this Arcane, which is very strong. And I will showcase exactly that and how it looks like and how big of a difference it makes when you actually invest into that, and that way you can make Nova's first ability very strong. So let's take a look at the builds that I have. Alright, the first build we're going to show is the Speedrun Nova build. This one just focuses on Arcane agility, parkour speed, and generally her escape velocity augment to gather as much move speed as possible. This augment does not scale with your strength, so you only need to put as much range on the portal as possible. And it takes a bit of skill to control it, but it's a really fun build, and it's a unique way of how Arcane Agility can be used. It can be used on other frames as well, and it's a really good combo with Rolling Guard, because you can use this plus Rolling Guard and get insane parkour speed. This can also be abused on something like a Mirage that clears base Stealth Exterminate missions very easily, because you really don't need a second Arcane, you only need Arcane Acceleration on that build to give your Ogress some fire rates, so the second Arcane can easily be an Arcane Agility to give yourself a bit more parkour speed. But in general, this build, as you can see, focused completely on speedrunning, and we're not using any other ability except our first ability maybe, and then our third, but our first is not really useful. To showcase how quick this build can be, we're gonna do Habits as fast as possible, the capture mission on the Void, which is also a great source of getting lit relics. It is by far the greatest and most efficient source of getting lit relics in the entire game.
Accept your death, and you may yet avoid it. Trust in your training.
So far Arcane Agility hasn't procced, and I got stuck, but that's fine. So Arcane Agility proc there, it's ready, but you know, gotta do this. And now you can run. And you're quite fast. Arcane Agility makes a huge difference to the parkour speed that you get. So, as you can see, really stupid. And obviously I could have done this way faster, but... Oh hey, Night Wave Challenge, I didn't even know about that. 45 seconds, half of the Night Wave Challenge is pretty decent. Considering you can do this with a Titania within 30 seconds, you know, this is nothing too impressive, but Titania is a one-of-a-kind speedrun warframe, and I think this could be a way more fun way to do speedruns because it involves a lot more skill and aiming with portals, learning tiles and all that. It's one of the oldest speedrun builds in the game, and before Titania and her augment happened, this used to be the way we would speedrun capture missions. So definitely a way you can use Arcane Agility. As I said on the other nodes, you can easily use something like a Mirage, and you can go for one of the slots. This build that uses energized munitions. Molt Augmented is not needed, it's just there for the extra strength, so you can instead go Arcane Agility. And this will provide you with 60% extra parkour velocity if somebody ever hits you. The 60% chance is way too high, and it will proc pretty much all the time. And because of this, you're able to run through the mission as fast as you're killing enemies. Enemies die through the setup pretty much instantly, so as long as you can maneuver the tile set really quickly, you're gonna do this mission faster and faster as you go. So definitely something to keep an eye on. I'm gonna put back Molt Augmented because I like it that way. I take this build on endless missions too. But if you ever wanna just focus on a speedrun exterminate mission for Mirage, then Agility would be a better choice. And it's something I am focusing to do. Also, if you heard something, that was my phone. I'm sorry. So, gonna go to the next build. Alright, so for the Excalibur build, we're looking at a pretty big setup for it. but it's definitely worth it. This is one of the strongest Excalibur builds out there in my opinion. As you can see, we're not really health tanking and we're only using one of his umbral polarities, the rest are used to shield tank. And then we're using Trickery and Crepuscular with a decent amount of strength and duration. Range efficiency are pretty much dump stats and not needed. And Equilibrium is here to give us the energy that we require to cast our abilities, because we need to cast quite a lot of abilities. And then for the Exalted Blade itself, we're looking into a full crit build with a Toxin and a Magnetic mode in order to get the Toxin to do Toxin plus Corrosive, because we are running Arcane continuity on Excalibur, so that's gonna give us Toxin dots and then Corrosive procs on the same targets, with a lot of status chance from Chromatic Blade. And then Condition Overload, Galvanized Elementalist for the extra status damage and status charms, Gladiator Might for the extra crit chance, and basically as much crit damage as possible and as much stats damage as possible while doing something like this. Then for triggering Arcane Trickery, we are using the Ceramic Dagger here, which is built absolutely to kill and to do finisher damage. This is not a Ceramic Dagger that we are using in order to do normal damage, just the finisher damage. So you can use this fine outside of that if you want, because we are using Wrathful Advance on Excalibur for the red crits. So a red crit Ceramic Dagger is gonna be decent enough regardless of if you're using a build like this or not. So you have a backup plan like that, and then you can use whatever weapons you need. So that is quite the setup, and I'm gonna show you how it looks like on a normal Guneer survival mission.
I'm sending life support capsules your way.
So the plan is go to a big enemy density, cast the Radiant Howl, and start doing finisher attacks. Your finisher attack has to kill in order for this to work, so there we go. Now we're invisible. And once you get invisibility, double dash from Madre, hit your Rifle Advance, and then just start meleeing. And this melee, the Exalted Blade, normally deals around 80k damage, as with this guy, but here we're dealing 1 million, and it generally will deal a lot and way more to targets that do survive the normal attack. So you do this, you get 2 Wrathful Advance casts every time Arcane Trickery procs, and once you're big enough with energy, you can even use it instead of the Ceramic Dagger to trigger Arcane Trickery again. And the best part about it is that while you're doing this finisher attacks, the enemies cannot actually hit you. So it's an iframe or a pseudo iframe type of resistance doing these finisher attacks. So you have invincibility, invisibility stacking on top of each other, and then in order to survive, you wanna try and play normally until your shields run out, and then with the shield recharge modes, you can start using the finisher attacks to regen back all your shields. Equilibrium is gonna take care mostly for your energy, and the rest is just, you doing this. Now it's 15% chance, so granted, sometimes it will not be with you, but you only need to proc it once and then it lasts for 30 seconds, so not the worst thing in the world, considering that. As you can see right now, it's really not helping me, but we finally trigger it, and we can start going ham again. And this pipe, this type of hallway, is the best way to see the destructive capabilities of this. 2.2 million damage. It's quite effective in terms of damage, especially. And I would suggest getting some charge in order to get your max energy up to uptime this, because you don't have spot for Prime Flow in this build, even though I really wanted to put one. But overall the damage goes quite nuts. So that regard is very strong. But, it needs a bit of setup, obviously. With the correct setup and everything working, it's really strong. And it gets the job done pretty much better than any other Excalibur build because of its pseudo tankiness as well, through the invisibility and invincibility. Come on, make me invis, please. There we go. We have invincibility, which by the way can also trigger if you do these type of finisher attacks, the Parazon finishers. Parazon finisher is also counted as a finisher, so it can also trigger Arcane Trickery, which is really nice. And yeah, the moment you get the invisibility, you can just go ham. So it is quite nice. And you know, you do rely on Arcane Trickery to proc, which is not the greatest, but you're pretty safe while doing it. And especially with the correct swords, you can do this without really caring about it. Funnily enough, while playing with this outside of the camera and outside of recording it, I get Arcane Trickery to proc 1 every 3 attempts, but when I'm on camera, of course, it's gonna fail quite consistently. But that's even better for my case, because then I can show the absolute distractiveness that this can do. So as you can see, Violence silenced us, but we're still invisible, because Arcane Trickery does keep from the invincibility, or does keep invisibility from the nullifiers and all that, which is really great. Drop energy, drop energy. They didn't drop energy. We might be dead. Valence might have fucked us. Gold has left us and so has Prime True-Footed. Not likely. Salta would have to save me. 1 stack. Charge it. Thank you, Salta. It saved me. Obviously it's Excalibur, so no build is gonna work perfectly on him. Especially because he's heavily relies on his abilities. And something like a Nullifier Bubble, or anything like Violence just now that showed up. You know, it can really hinder your power. But overall, it's pretty safe. I would say if things don't go to shits, and if you do care about keeping your uptime on weapons and all that, this is something that can make Excalibur pretty viable, and especially when you consider higher level gameplay, where invincibility and invisibility become very, very potent on that mode. So I really like his first ability build, slash dash build, excuse me. But this is also a build to look out for, and something that Arcane Crepuscular has made possible and very, very strong. Last but not least, something to showcase for Arcane Arachne, and I'm going to showcase this on Nova because she is the easier warframe to showcase this on. This is a build revolved around her first ability, doing as much damage as possible, and we have Vigorous Swap and Arcane Arachne in this build with Neutron Star and Molecular Fission. And this is because Neutron Star and Null Star in general count towards weapon damage. So this ability has weapon damage properties. It is treated as you dealing damage with your weapon to the enemies. So Nourish does apply to it, and Nourish gives it viral damage, for example. So if we go ahead and cast our ability, spawn enemies, and then you see these, they apply blast and then heat. If we cast Nourish, now they also apply viral. Quite a bit as well. And the more we do it, the more viral these enemies are gonna have. And it's pretty consistent. So, you know, you see the damage is okay, it's really nice. Now, we're also gonna add Arcane Arachne, and we're gonna switch our weapons so that Vigorous will count. So let's see the damage now. So Arcane Arachne, we're switching our weapons occasionally. And you see they're already dying. And they're dead. So this is what I was saying about some abilities counted towards weapon damage. And Arcane Arachne is able to break those abilities like so, where you as a Nova player can 3-shot level 200 Eximus enemies. This makes it so that this Nova build is excellent at speedrunning some Exterminate missions on the Still Path, even if it's, you know, an ability that normally is used defensively. This can be used now offensively to treat Exterminate missions as a speedrun build, and it is very, very effective, and it can kill Exterminate mission enemies very, very quickly. So all you need to do is just reproc Arcane Arachne, because Arcane Arachne has 100% uptime. You have it, you can then get off the wall, it stays for 30 seconds, and after 30 seconds it stops, but then you can just jump back on the wall and it reapplies. If you jump on the wall before the buff is down, as you can see, it doesn't reapply. But the moment the buff will be gone, and if we go back and touch the wall, the buff will reapply again. So a maxed out Arcane Arachne is basically a free 150% buff to some ability damage. And some of this, as I said, Nova's Nullstar, Wisp's third ability. There is a lot of others as well, but these are the ones I know from the top of my head right now. I can list some of them on the screen if you have the patience, or in the comments if you really want to, but overall, this is something to keep in mind. It is very, very strong. Alright, that's gonna be it for today's video. I don't know if you guys have seen, but I have been streaming for every single day ever since February started, and I have a plan to stream every single day for the entire month of February, so I will leave Twitch link below in the description if you want to come and say hi. I'll be streaming any game from Warframe to Skyrim to Trackmania to Apex Legends to anything that I want the day I want to play it. And as you can see, the Wisp format has it has changed quite a bit from that. And if you're wondering how the hell that happened, thank you Boru very much for the generous donation of 155 fucking forma bundles. You bet your ass I'm putting another one right now. Now it's 261. Don't worry, a lot more will be put, so the number will go even again. But, you know, if you want to level up your gear, if you want to hang out with me in chat, just come say hi or something. I don't know, I'm there every single day. So, thank you so much for watching another one of my videos, and I will see you in the next one.